Today we're going to do some color mixing. We're going to use our primaries and white. I have two sets of primaries here. I have a warm primary. These colors are just considered warmer and these colors are considered cooler. So I have Cadmium Red, Cadmium Yellow, Ultramarine Blue for my warm palette. And for my cool palette, I have Primary Red, which can also be Magenta. I have Primary Yellow, or Lemon Yellow would be a good one. I have Cobalt Blue. You can also use a Phthalo Blue. You can use a Prussian Blue. But mostly you just want to look to see if it is cooler than the warm blue that you're using, the Ultramarine Blue. And then I have white. Oh, and you might notice I have different brands here. It's just what I have on hand. I think Liquitex is a really great all-around product that even professionals can use, students can use. It's kind of middle of the road in the price. Golden is the top quality that I've ever used. And this is the store brand Blick, which is very good quality from Blick.com. All of these are decent for both learning and for professional work. And that's usually the only colors I buy other than black, unless I want to get something like gold or silver. We're going to need something to paint on. I'm using a palette sheet, a canvas pad sheet. It's gessoed just like a stretched canvas, but it's a lot cheaper, so it's perfect for exercises like this. You can paint a final piece on these too, you just have to worry more about framing. I have a palette sheet here, a disposable palette. You don't have to use these, I just have a lot on hand. You can use a piece of wax paper, a sheet of magazine that you were going to throw away, any kind of palette made for painting. I would stay away from the ones that have the little like the circles with all the little wells, because it is harder to mix colors with those. I have a paper towel. These are my go-to brushes for everything I'm painting: a 1-inch flat, about a 1/2 inch flat, and a small round, probably number 2, and some water. I've learned recently from another teacher that these 3-compartment caddies are great for water mixing, because if one of them gets dirty, you have 2 more backup. So let's go ahead and lay out our paints. I'm gonna start with the warm tones. So I'm gonna get some Cadmium Red. And then anytime you need to clean your brush, it's good to first wipe off the excess on your paper towel as much as you can. That way your water doesn't get filthy right away. And then go in and clean it. When you are cleaning your brush, be careful, make sure you scrape the bottom. If you just dip, it's not going to get it all the way clean. And then I get the extra water off my brush with my paper towel so I don't add too much water to my acrylics. Okay, I'm going to get the Cadmium Yellow. That's the warm yellow. And I'm going to get the Ultramarine Blue. We're just going to start with that for now. I'm going to go ahead and start making a color wheel. So I'm going to get my brush damp, so I dip it in the water, and then I get the extra water off my brush. And that's called a thirsty brush. For example, if you get a sponge, like if you take a dry sponge and you try to clean something up, it doesn't do a very good job. But if you take a sponge, get it wet, wring it out, then all of a sudden it will clean up messes. It's the same concept with a brush. So I'm going to get some red. And that looks like I need a tiny bit water. You'll learn the more you do this how much water to use. You want it to be this nice creamy consistency. I'm going to go ahead, I don't know why, but I always put red on the top on my color wheels. It doesn't have to be any kind of perfect circle. And then remember, wipe off your brush on your paper towel, clean it in the water, and then if you're not using your brush, you want to lay it flat to dry or up and down like that. Never just in the water with the head down. And also don't leave it with paint on it because it could dry and ruin your brush. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and label these. So this is my warm red, and it's cadmium red. Okay, now let's get some yellow. So make sure my brush is damp but not wet. Pull some yellow out of my pile here. As I'm pulling it out of the pile, I'm working with it a little bit to make sure it's creamy and not thick, but also not watery, somewhere in between. Go ahead and do my yellow circle down here, or swatch, whatever shape you want to do. Clean my brush. Okay, and get some blue. Now we have our primaries. I'm going to clean my brush before I write my words down. So red, yellow, and blue are primary colors, meaning you cannot make them. You can make secondary colors, which is what we're about to do next, but for primaries you have to buy them. And this is Ultramarine Blue. I'm just going to write Ult. And this was Cadmium Yellow. Okay. Let's go ahead and make our secondary colors. Secondary colors you get by mixing your primaries. So let's mix red and yellow. When you mix colors, you want to take some of the colors from your pile and move it. That way, when you, like we're about to make orange, and we don't want to turn all of our red into orange, so then we'll have an orange pile and a red pile. So I got some red out. I'm going to clean my brush so I don't make my yellow pile dirty. Get some yellow, put it out here. And something to know is you always want to mix dark into light. If I was to take yellow and mix it into this red pile, I would need to keep getting more and more and more. But if I want to put red into yellow, all it takes is, watch this, like the tiniest bit, and it's going to start turning it orange. And I can always get more. If that's not orange enough, get a little bit more. And it saves paint that way when you mix dark into light. I think that's a nice bright orange. So I'm going to put it in between these two colors, making my wheel here. The color wheel is a map, so that if you forget how to make certain colors, you can look back. If I forgot how to make orange, I can look at the two colors right next to it, red and yellow. Clean my brush. Okay, now we're going to mix blue and yellow, same way. And actually, something to be said here, if you use a palette knife to mix colors, it does save more paint, because when you're using a brush like this, some of the paint does stay in the bristles and you do lose paint. But for this exercise, I do want you to get used to having to clean your brush a lot. It's a good practice to know, wipe it on the paper towel, clean it in the water before you go and touch another paint. And it gets you used to using the brush more. Okay, get some yellow over here. Same thing as earlier. I want to take just a little of the blue and mix it into my yellow until I'm happy with how green it is. Now I'm going to do something. I'm going to mix all of this together, And I have, now this is too blue. I have too much blue in this. So something I can do instead of, so I'm gonna clean my brush again before I get more yellow. So instead of getting enough yellow to turn all of this green lighter, I'm gonna put another pile of yellow here, right? And I'm just gonna mix some of my green until I'm happy with my green. That way I don't have to use tons and tons of yellow to make, and just keep, you know, keep having to get more yellow, more blue. So now I have a blue green and a green, and I could even have a yellow green too if I wanted. And with the warm primaries, you're gonna get this olive colored green. Clean my brush. These colors that we're doing right now are called secondaries, the orange, the green, and the violet that we're about to do. This yellow green here that I made would actually go between yellow and green to make yellow green. That could use a little more yellow to make it obvious. And then on the other side would be blue-green. These are the tertiary colors. They're colors you get by mixing primaries and secondaries together. So think 1 + 2 = 3, tertiary. Same thing up here. We would have a yellow-orange, which is a little oranger than yellow, but not quite as orange as orange. And then a red-orange. I'm just adding more to make sure you can tell the difference. Lastly, we're gonna make violet. In art, we call it violet instead of purple. Purple is technically violet that has white added to it. So I'm gonna get some blue out, clean my brush, get some red. So that's a little bit still too blue, so I need a little more red. Blue and red are both fairly dark, so it really doesn't matter which one you add in to the other. There we go. And again, just like we got sort of an olive green with the warm primaries, we're gonna get this burgundy sort of black cherry violet with the warm primaries. And then let's go ahead and make a blue violet and a red violet. Blue violet will just have more blue. It's kind of a grape color. Red violet will have more red. Let's make it more red. There we go. So we've now made primaries, secondaries, and tertiaries. Where's my marker? So the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. Secondary colors is orange, green, and violet. Tertiary, which also can be called intermediate colors. I don't know why we have two names for it. That would be the red-orange, yellow-orange, yellow-green, blue-green, blue-violet, and red violet. And you might notice when you label these, you always use the primary color first. Sometimes you'll find a Crayola pencil that's like violet blue, and that's just not written correctly. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Okay, now let's add white to the mix. Whenever you add white to a color, it's called tinting it. And I'm using titanium white right now. You'd probably want to use mixing white if you're trying to save money. Mixing white is great for when you're tinting a color. Titanium white is great for when you just want to put white on your painting, solid white. But this is just what I have, so it's what I'm using. Now I'm going to take all these colors that I made, mostly just, I'm only going to do the red, yellow, blue, orange, green, and violet. I'm going to tint them. So everything that we add to white now is going to be darker. So we want to add dark into light. So I'm going to get some white out here. And then I'm going to get some red. Just a little bit. A little bit more. It is really hard to add white to red to make pink because you just need tons and tons and tons of white. But you need only the smallest amount of red to make white pink. I'm just going to put it next to it. This is how you're going to make pastel colors. Clean my brush. If your paper towel is starting to look like that, you can flip it, you can fold it the other way. Okay, let's do orange now. Kind of like a creamsicle. Yellow. Oh, should have put it closer to the yellow, but that's fine. Okay, do some green. Blue. And violet. Kind of a lilac. When you add white to a warm violet, you get lilac. When you add white to a cool violet, you get more of a traditional purple color. Okay, before we switch to the cool primaries, I want to show you one more thing. Across each other on a color wheel, the opposite colors like red and green, blue and orange, violet and yellow are called complementary. I'll draw some lines here. Violet and yellow, red and green, blue and orange. If you mix them, you get brown. So let's try. I'm gonna make this a little more blue so I have my violet back again. Okay. I'm gonna make violet by mixing yellow and purple together. I mean yellow and violet. I'm gonna make brown by mixing yellow and violet together. That's what I meant to say. And yes, you're technically just mixing all the colors together, but if you were just to take and mix all the colors that we made together to get brown, it'd be really hard to recreate that same brown again. But if you isolate it and you make yourself a green and mix red into it, or blue and orange, or violet and yellow, it's a lot easier to recreate that again in the future. Let's try another one. Let's try blue and orange this time. Looks like I need to make up some more orange. So get some yellow out, grab my red here. Okay. Get some blue. Okay, this is my blue and orange brown. Oh, it's really close. That doesn't always happen. I usually have quite a bit of difference between these browns. Of course, if I want it to be different, I know I can add just a little more red, or a little more yellow, or a little more blue. Let's see what happens if I do that. Let's add a little blue to it and see. Just a little. So I kind of added too much, but I mean, it's still a nice color. Now that's too blue, it needs more orange. So I'm gonna get some orange here. There, that's more like brown again, but still different than that brown. So color mixing is a lot of experimenting like I just did. Okay, what's the last one? Red and green. Okay, let's mix my green here. My colors are starting to dry a little bit, so I'm adding a little water to them. Acrylics do dry very quickly, which is both a blessing and a curse. Okay, now I'm going to take some red. I'm not going to try and make all of this brown, just a part of it. I got too much red. I might have to make all of it brown. Okay, yeah. There we go. Clean my brush. Now, I wonder if you noticed when you were mixing your browns something cool. Let me show you, for example, if I take red, take some over here, and I add just a little green to it. Just a little. Make sure that even shows on camera. It does not. I'm gonna move it up here. Okay, so I have red, and then I move just a little green into it, and all it does is give it almost like a shadow. It's like right next to that, that's bright red. That's a little shadow. So if you want to make your colors muted, make them look more natural, give a shadow, sometimes you want to do adding the complement to it instead of adding black always. You can use black, especially if you're doing something black. If I was painting this paint tube, I would need the color black. This is a synthetic material, man-made, that they use black in, so it would make sense to do that. But if you're painting something in nature, very few things are a true black. You're gonna really, it's mostly just a really dark brown, a really dark violet, a very dark green or indigo. And if you're working towards realism, that's something you want to consider, is just not using black unless it is something man-made or one of those rare, very rare occurrences of black in nature. So here we go, I added a little even more green to it, and it's not quite brown. This is more of a, I don't know, like the red sand, the red dirt in Oklahoma. So the more green you add, the more brown it's gonna get. And this works for every color. If I want to make myself a sky and I don't want it to be this blue because that's not really, you don't really see that color of sky anywhere, can add a little orange to it. So make myself some more orange here. Mix orange with my blue, but not all of it, just a little. And look at that gorgeous stormy blue I just got, like almost like the night. See, that's almost black. That's a good night, inky night sky. I think I'll add a little more blue to it though. There we go. And that's like a stormy blue. And then I can add some white to that. So let's move over here. Ooh, I got myself a really nice gray. See, when you add white to it, you can also see, does it need different colors added to it? I'm going to add more blue still. There we go. And then I can do more white. And I'm getting more of like a moody Kansas sky color. So just play around with different colors, add different colors. Don't just use a color straight out of a tube, because in nature there's millions of varieties of colors, different tints, you know, when we add white, different shades when we add black, or the opposite color. It can also be called toning it. When you add the opposite color, can be called toning. We have a lot of words that mean the same thing in art. So, okay, let's do the same thing, and it will be quicker this time now that we know what we're doing. And we're gonna do it with our cooler primaries. So if your palette looks like mine, you might need a new palette. I'm just gonna put mine to the side. My paint's still good, I can use it still. Get a new palette. Okay, gonna get my cool red. In this case, it's called primary red. Looks a lot like a magenta or a like rose madder, or sometimes you can use like a quinacridone red. Clean my brush. Okay, this one's called primary yellow. It's similar to a lemon yellow. And I'm using cobalt blue today. You can use Prussian, you can use Phthalo. And these are really similar to the magenta, cyan, and yellow that they use in printers to make all the colors. So let's go ahead and start the same way. We're going to take this for our red. Make ourselves a circle. Clean our brush. Yellow. Blue. Those are our primaries. I can really quick write that down. Cool red, and I'm using a primary red. Cool yellow, and it's just called primary yellow in this brand, and then a cool blue. And this brand is a Cobalt that I'm using. And Now we're going to make our secondary colors, the ones that you can make by mixing your primaries. So I'm going to make orange. And now you're going to start noticing a little bit of a difference. So this orange is a lot different than the first orange. Let's see what happens if I make a red orange. And yellow orange. So obviously orange and orange, but it's different kinds of oranges. So depending on what picture you're painting, what colors you are trying to match, it's good to know how to make the different kinds. Clean my brush. Let's make green next. Blue. And get some yellow out here. And take a tiniest bit of blue to my yellow. That's actually a yellow green, so I'm just going to keep it now so I don't have to make it again later. There's my yellow green. You add some more blue. That's like a Crayola grass green or pea. That's like the vegetable. Let's add some more blue. Is it a vegetable or is it a legume? I don't know. You know what I mean though. Okay, and the blue green. So these greens that we made first are more olivey, almost like army fatigue. And these are brighter. So clean our brush. Now we'll do the violets. There's our K-State purple. Living in Manhattan, we see this everywhere. Go ahead and make it more of a blue violet down here. I'm just gonna go in here so I don't cover the words. Then we got like a blueberry. And then red violet up here. Like a fuchsia or no, more like what color is that? Orchid? I don't know what color you would call that. Anyways, let's try adding well, we're gonna add white to those again anyway, but I just want to show you what happens when you add white to violet. Okay, let's take that K-State purple here. Good to make some more. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, and let's add white. Get ourselves a beautiful lavender, like the new basketball jerseys. Okay, all right, let's mix red with all of our primaries and secondaries now. I meant to say white. Let's mix white with them. Let's tint our primaries and secondaries. Okay, let's do our red. See this red? My warm tint is like baby pink, I guess, almost peach. My cool one is like a bubblegum pink. Okay, do orange. I think these colors are more vibrant and the warm colors are more natural. and it really does also depend on the season. But I typically lean on the warm palette more. I just am drawn to that. But if I'm drawing portraits and somebody's wearing man-made clothes, it's really good to know how to mix other colors, because like if a girl is wearing a lavender shirt, I'm not going to be able to get it with a warm primary. And also sometimes it's easier to mix like dog tongues and little pink dog noses with a cool red than it is with a warm red. Okay, orange. Oh, I did orange already. It's time to do yellow now. I feel like the the warm primary yellow that was tinted looks like a Easter chick, and I think the cool primary yellow tinted looks like a peep, like an Easter peep. Okay, the green now. It's like a nice pistachio. And blue. Okay, now we need to make our browns. Remember, browns are made by mixing opposite colors on the color wheel. So red and green, blue and orange, violet and yellow. I already have a good violet mixed up down here, so I'm gonna do that one first. And you ought to be able to get different browns than you did with the warm primaries. And if you don't, it's okay. Just, you just keep practicing till you get better at it. And if you truly cannot get the hang of mixing colors, or you just despise it, it's okay. There's no rule that says you have to do this. You can go to the store and buy brown and buy all these different shades. It is more cost efficient to be able to make your own. And it's also good to know how to buy a tube, like say buy a teal, and know how to tone it a bit, like by adding if I had a teal, which is like a blue-green, if you add some orange, maybe a little bit of red orange to it, just a touch, it will make it less, like it looks like it came straight out of the tube. Like it'll make it look like a more natural color. So this is still good stuff to know. Okay. Let's do orange and blue. And what's left? Green and red. It's too much red. And just there we go. 3 different browns. So we have primaries, red, yellow, blue, secondaries, orange, green, violet, tertiaries, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, red, violet. We tinted them by adding white, and then we mixed complementary colors to make brown. That is the end of our first color mixing lesson. If you have leftover paint on your palette, maybe you could just use it to just be creative. You don't have to throw it away if you feel like painting right now. Maybe you feel inspired to do a sky. Maybe start with some blue and add. You can always mix on while you're painting, right? When you are doing a large painting, you can mix on the canvas itself. Maybe that blue is too Crayola and you want to tone it. Drop some orange in there. Maybe add some hills. I don't know. I'm just playing around at this point. But if you want to, since you already have paint on your palette, maybe do yourself a little painting and try out some of the new colors that you learned how to mix today. Next time we're going to work on practicing with different acrylic mediums.